Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Man, we got some good news today. It's been going on since Friday. The first one I want to cover is what Judge O'Connor did in the Fifth Circuit Court, I believe it is. It's the court that's in North Texas and covers Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and I think parts of New Mexico, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, what they did was with the Mock v. Garland case. And this is for the first time, rather than rule on administrative problems that we all know the ATF doesn't have the power that they think they do, and trying to use Chevron deference to push rules arbitrarily. O'Connor actually went off and said that based off of the common use test, so this is the Heller decision, that there are enough pistol braces in common use by legal American citizens that you can't void this, or you can't pass this rule arbitrarily. You can't do this. Now, why is this important? Because it's the first time that someone used the Second Amendment argument used in Heller rather than use that the ATF doesn't have this power to begin with. They're actually applying this, or O'Connor is using the Heller decision, which reads straight from the 2A itself, and the Heller decision specifically has said that if a gun is in common use, you cannot ban said item. Well, he later went on to say that semi-automatics have been in common use for years for self-defense and by legal law-abiding citizens, and that any accessory, adding this accessory, doesn't exclude the first part of that this is a semi-automatic pistol that is perfectly legal and has been legal for years, and by their ATF's own admission, you can't do this. By your own standard, you can't do this. The next great decision that we have to look at, which is kind of awesome, is the RTF, or the Forced Reset Trigger, for FRT triggers. There is a 100% okay to do it now. Not only did the guy say that you can start making them again, so they're not machine guns. They use the ATF's own documents as well as their own stuff against them, but it goes a lot further. So the owner of FRT triggers is actually one of the head dudes for one of these firearms organizations. So in the injunction that was applied to this, it allowed them to say that him and anyone that is basically surrounding him, around him, anything else, this injunction applies to. That means that it applies to everyone that is not only a member of those, but a member of one of those organizations, or who's purchased one of these FRT triggers, because they use their own definition, the ATF's own definition against them. They said that this does not expel more than one projectile with one operation of the trigger. So while these are great stack-up cases that we need to definitely pat ourselves on the back, we're winning. As I keep telling you guys, we're winning in the 2A. It just doesn't feel like it because we're always, and have always been, under assault. You know, there is another assault coming, and it's sad. I don't know how much it'll affect a lot of people. It'll affect me a little bit. Is that they've stopped munitions from coming into the country. So munitions, if you don't know what they are, they're munitions or ammunition that allows you to do force-on-force training in a non-lethal way. So these are those paintball bullets, basically, that come through, and the reason why they're able to do this so easily is that they're made in Canada and they're made in the UK, and they can use the ITAR regulations, because ITAR covers firearms and ammunition, to stop this. So this shows that the Biden administration will do anything they can and will always do whatever they can to stop this. What bothers me about this particular is not only does it affect me because I've used some munitions and it's a great way to actually do force-on-force training, and you learn a hell of a lot when it's actual real deal Holyfield, you know, when you feel the sting, because then you start adjusting your training regimen and you adjust how you're doing things. But if they're willing to and capable of banning ammunition, that means that they can go after our ammunition. And without ammunition, your gun's useless. Without batteries, the toy you bought at Christmas is not going to work. Same thing goes with the 2A, is you can have all the guns in the world, but if you don't have the ammunition to feed them, we're kind of hosed. So that's something that's on my blip on my radar that I'll keep watching for you guys. But we're winning, guys. It's sad to see the stuff that's going on in the world. If you didn't hear, Israel was attacked by Hezbollah today and Hamas, yesterday and today. And Netanyahu who is the president or the prime minister of Israel, has said that they're going to attack these guys. They have since reclaimed a lot of the territory they lost on day one of this new war. The declaration of war is there, which means that they are going hard and heavy after anyone in Palestine. Now, for a lot of us who are of the volition we shouldn't be messing with other people's internal squabbles or events, I understand that. My concern with this is that this is God's chosen people. We've always been an ally of Israel since 1947 when Israel was made. But I don't believe we should be sponsoring or sending tons of stuff to them or to any other country when we can use those resources here in the United States. That's an unpopular opinion for a lot of people. But my opinion is more so based on we've done the war thing for 20 years, 20 plus years, and we haven't gotten nothing out of it except for show that we are the terrorists in the world. It's time for these people to settle their own disputes without us getting involved, even if it's Israel. And I firmly believe Israel's more than capable of taking on Hamas or Hezbollah because they're very ill-funded, very ill-organized, and Israel has a tendency to strike hard, strike fast, and go hard and heavy. And they're already doing airstrikes in Palestine, in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip. That's where this is going on. I have some friends that were getting ready to go to a trip that was associated with church to go to Israel. That's sad that probably won't happen since it's now a war zone. But there will be other times, I believe, unless, we're in that last place of the end of the world or the end times. I'm not worried too much about that because I think, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and there's not much you can do other than make yourself right the best way you can at this point in the game. But in the other world affairs, you're seeing the State Department came out along with Ukraine, and they finally admitted that they have reclaimed less than 1% of the territory they lost to Russia, which means that they finally admitted that Russia is winning the war in Ukraine. Putin came out and he talked about the bull crap that was going on with Yevgeny Prigozhin. So I'm just giving you a news break of what's been going on. If you don't know who Yevgeny Prigozhin is, he is the guy that ran the Wagner PMC, the guys that did a lot of the work in Ukraine, specifically in Bakhmut, and they are the ones that took the Crimea originally in 2014. He also started a coup attempt against Putin, and we all know that if you do anything against Putin, you're going to pay very dearly with your life eventually, and that's what happened. But it came out that Putin came out in a very public way saying that they had found 5 kilos of cocaine, $5 billion or $6 billion worth of money, and fragments of grenades on the plane that was crashed. Let's just all be honest. Putin killed that guy. He came out against him, and if you do that and you're in Russia proper, you're going to die. You don't go up against Putin without some repercussions. But in that same interview, what was terrifying is that he basically is talking about nuclear annihilation, and that if we ever give the wrong weapon system to Ukraine. He reserves the right to use nukes. Now, these could be tactical nukes, and one of my listeners who's very familiar with this stuff, there are such a thing as called theater nukes. So if you don't know what a theater nuke is, they can be shells, nuclear missiles, short-range nuclear missiles that could stop while you launch one of these in Ukraine. You're basically denying yourself and them that territory. I could see Russia using that if this battle in Ukraine becomes so one-sided. There was a point I could have seen them using them really early on if they wanted to stop the flow of arms and from the West to Ukrainians, specifically if they'd hit Poland or Germany. That would have stopped NATO dead in its tracks from trying to hand off this stuff. Since that, I don't see very much use in that he's trying to occupy the territory he's in. Not that he cares too much about or occupy the territories that he would use the nukes in. Because it would expose his troops, and he doesn't have, while he has a lot more than Ukraine has, he does not have enough to go farther than where he wants to eventually go. I'm still of the volition that Peter Zeihan is correct, that Putin knows that he has to secure the Russian state. He's got to isolate those 9 entryways into the Eurasian plain, one of which is, south of Ukraine. One of the other ones are west of Ukraine, specifically in Poland and Germany and Lithuania. I don't think he's going to stop until he can get those, unless we do something really, really harsh to the guy. That's why I think that we're sending him weapons in Ukraine themselves, weapons that we ourselves could use. I don't know that we're ever going to use those weapons. Everybody keeps talking about the saber rattling that China is doing, and that there's a possibility of us going to war with China. I still don't believe we're going to do that. And if we do get to the Chinese war, I think it'll be a shorter war than we're actually giving ourselves credit for, because a lot of the assessments assume that we're playing nice with the Chinese, and I've never known the United States to play nice when we go to war. Specifically, I don't see us allowing energy and food into an enemy state if the entire state is considered an enemy of the Republic. So with China being exposed so heavily to those markets for food and energy, I don't see how they can exist when we shut those off, and we would definitely shut them off. Whether or not we accept the loss of Taiwan, I'm not so sure we wouldn't. And why I say that is we're building a lot of infrastructure here to build microprocessors, and really the American people have lost the appetite for any kind of conflict when it comes to putting boots on the ground anywhere. So there is not an appetite here in the United States for war. We're still trying to fight amongst ourselves to figure out who's going to run the country, because look at what's been going on in our country. You can't look at who's running the country right now and think it's demonstrably better than what we had. Trump may have been a blowhard, may have done a lot of bad things that I don't necessarily agree with, specifically with the 2A, because, this is New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. But he did do a hell of a lot better job, in my opinion, than Biden is doing right now. We look like clowns on the international stage, and I think the people that always thought Trump was a clown on the international stage are now finding out just how bad it is to not have someone who's strong enough in the background, who has a spine. But I digress. We're still winning. We're still kicking butt. The 2A stuff is coming our way. It just takes a long dang time. I mean, I've been talking about the Mock v. Garland case for months now, and we're just now starting to see a little bit of movement there. It won't change until the actual Supreme Court, not these district Supreme Courts, but the actual Supreme Court takes this case. And they're going to have to, because there seems to be a split among some of these guys. I think that they're going to have to do a magazine case of some kind. I'm thinking the Bonta v. The one in California that I talked about, where they finally overruled the state of California and allowing them to have normal capacity magazines again. But there's other places like New York and Chicago that they're still fighting those battles, in New Jersey, that they're going to have to finally settle it once and for all, and it's time. I think the other case that you need to pay attention to, and it's still looking like it's going to be in our favor, is actually nothing that has to do with the 2.8. It has to do with environmental agency, but it shows that Chevron deference is not supposed to be used the way they're trying to use it. And that's why I still think we're winning, guys. It takes a long time. It sucks. But as I've said before, the Revolutionary War didn't start for 20 years before they finally started the stuff. Are we going to get to a Revolutionary War, a second Revolutionary War in the United States? I hope not, but it's very possible. We're very divided, and we're very much in different camps. One camp thinks that the government has supreme power, and the other camp knows that the power that the government has is derived from the people. That's how it's always meant to have been. That's what our founding fathers wanted. That's how they designed our country. I don't understand what the difference is with people, why they don't understand that piece. January 6th, there's a lot of people that see it in both camps. I ran into some people that are on the Republican side that see this as a very problematic, bad thing, when in reality, it was that house belongs to the people. So I understand you're not supposed to degrade that house. Degrade that house. I keep saying that wrong. But degrade that house in any way. That said, that house really doesn't hold a lot of power or sway over most of us. It is only there because the people have allowed that power for them to have. So, the stuff that's going on with Matt Gaetz, if you didn't know what's going on in the House, the Speaker of the House was removed, Kevin McCarthy. I think I spoke about this Thursday. Is it a big deal? Yes, because he was basically fired by his own caucus, his own party. There's rumors that he's going to retire from the Senate because he has lost his political capital. That's a good thing. We need people to start listening to us again in that house, in all of our houses, and they're not doing it. The polls right now show that people are trusting Republicans more than they're trusting Democrats. Something to the tune of 53% of Democrats now are saying they trust Republicans more than they trust their own party. Until we settle that debate of what the hell these guys are doing and where they're going and what they're doing, we are totally in that space where we have to figure out some stuff. And I think we're in a good place, honestly. It's just going to take time. Like, share, subscribe, be great.